Well, now everybody, what's happening, man? It's your boy C Wells, your tour guide around the SWAC, coming at you with another edition of SWAC Talk, the show where we cover the SWAC inside and out. And today we're gonna talk about the SWAC championship game. We're gonna preview the SWAC championship game, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the All SWAC teams, and just getting ready to put a bow on this SWAC season. After this, the only game left is the Celebration Bowl. So football is coming to an end. It's coaching carousel season, so hopefully we have some momentum and things on that nature. Also, next week, next Wednesday, we'll do a little basketball preview. I know the season is already going on, but like I said, I mainly focus at least on this end of it, on SWAC play. As far as covering the games, it's a lot easier to cover during SWAC play. But we had SWAC has picked up a few non-conference victories along the way, so basketball is looking like it's going to be pretty interesting and always unpredictable. So we'll see how the season turns out, and we'll give you, we'll run down the teams to look out for, some of the players to look out for, and some of the, the games to look out for. So, if you haven't follow SWAC basketball yet, then you definitely want to tune in for this episode next week, because this will be your intro to SWAC basketball. And SWAC basketball is probably even more crazy than SWAC football. So buckle up and enjoy. So as usual, the socials are scrolling on the screen down below. So feel free to check all those out and do what it requires, like, follow, whatever case may be. You hear, if you haven't done so already, once you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, because, like I said, this is coaching carousel season, so news can drop at any day on any situation. So I'll be dropping videos when news comes out, so you definitely don't want to miss that. So hit that notification bell for that. Like the video, share them, and feel free to comment and let me know who you think gonna win this game. Let me know how you feel about the All SWAC teams, and anything else in general, man. We can chop it up in the comments. So let's dive right in, man. Let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna talk about this big football game that we have Saturday. SWAC championship game, Jackson State and Prairie View hooking up in Jackson. This is a 3 p.m. kickoff. I think the game's on ESPN too, so make sure you check that out. Prairie View's coming in at 7-4, 6-2. They are on a 3-game losing streak, so they hit a little skid. They lost to Alcorn, and then they lost to Texas A&M, and they've closed out the season with a loss to Valley. Right now they're 3-3 on the road, so that's a mark to kind of take a look at heading into this game. Let's just take a quick look at how the Panthers got here. They opened up their season with a 40-17 victory over Texas Southern. They had a 40-9 loss to Incarnate Word. They beat Houston Baptist 37-27. They beat Grambling 24-10. They beat Pine Bluff 27-17. They beat Bethune-Cookman 35-29. They beat Southern 48-21. They beat Alabama State 24-20. They lost to Alcorn 31-29. They lost to Texas A&M 52-3. And they lost to Valley 24-19. The Panthers, statistically, take a quick look at what they bring to the table. Right now, they are fifth in the league in scoring offense at 26.8 points per game. Defensively, they're fourth in the league at 26.2 points per game. So they pretty even. Total offense, they're third right now at 402 yards per game. They average 5.9 yards per play. They've scored 35 touchdowns on the season. Defensively, they're third as well in total defense, allowing 321 yards per game and 34 touchdowns, 4.8 yards per play. Rushing offense, Prairie View is third with 166.9 yards per game on the ground. Their rush defense is fourth, 137.5 yards per game. Their passing offense is fourth, and they average 235 yards per game. They have 16 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. Defensively, they're third, allowing an average of 183.9 yards per game. The opponents have 18 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Field goals, they are second in the league. They're 12 of 14 for 85%. Extra points, they are ninth, 31 or 34 for 91%. They are punting for an average of they're punting for an average of 39 yards per game with a net average of 30.7, which is 10th in the league. Um, Typically, special teams they've been pretty good. The punt game hasn't been as good. Returns they are bottom of the pack in returns. Kick returns they average 16.1 yards per return, and punt returns 6.1 yards per return. Defensively, the Panthers have allowed 17 sacks on the season. So that's second in the league. So they've done a good job of protecting the quarterback. As far as getting sacks, they're fifth in the league with 24. And obviously, their offensive line is going to be tested by the Jackson State defensive line, which we'll cover in a second. Third down conversions per view is fourth in the league at 39.9%. And defensively, they're second at 31.7. Fourth down, they are fourth with 54.2% fourth down conversions. And defensively, they allow 57% conversion on fourth downs, which is good for 10th place. So as you can see, this defense is pretty solid. Like I said, they're third or fourth in pretty much every major statistical category. They do a pretty good job of getting to the quarterback. They don't allow a lot of sacks. Um, the issue to me coming into this game is going to be the health of this team. Damian Brooks is the second leading rusher on the team at 464 yards on 81 carries. He's averaging 5.7 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns. He got banged up in the A&M game. I don't know if he's going to be back. So that's a big loss. Jaden Stewart has stepped up in his spot. I know they have like a three-headed monster, but Stewart has really taken charge. He's leading the team right now with 651 yards and 4.9 yards per carry and 7 touchdowns. He has 132 carries, has a long of 42. Juwan Pass, 75 carries, 239 yards and 4 touchdowns. Ahmad Antoine, 39 carries, 166 yards and 1 touchdown. Christian Mosley, 47 carries, 209 yards and no touchdowns. Juwan Pass is obviously the guy that drives this offense at quarterback. He's a big guy, like you see, he can run. He has a really strong arm. He's a big guy, so he's hard to bring down if he gets out of the pocket. Um, he is prone to turnovers, so if you can force him to turn the ball over, then that's definitely going to hamper their offense. He is 197 of 311, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 2,592 yards, 63% completion rate. The key for this offense is obviously Antonio Mullins. He got injured in the Valley game, so I don't know his status. I think I heard that he had a serious injury. So if he can't go, then that's definitely a big blow to this offense because he's the leading receiver. He has 46 catches for 584 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's averaging 12.7 yards per catch. Jalen Howard is the guy who has been the deep threat guy most of the year. 20 catches, 445 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's averaging 22.2 yards per catch. Trajan Spillers come on late. 14 catches, 323 yards, and 4 touchdowns as well with 23.7 yards per catch. Brooks is a factor out of the backfield, so if he can't go, then that's another receiving threat that you lose. He has 27 catches for 250 yards and 1 touchdown, 13.5 yards per catch. Kobe Washington, 18 catches, 244 yards and a touchdown. Evan Ferris, 12 catches, 212 yards and 2 touchdowns. Donovan White, 16 catches, 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they do spread the ball around, but losing your top receiver is definitely going to hurt in a game like this. If you lose your best receiving back, that can also hurt. This offense is going to be tested because they picked up some injuries, and there's been a lot of discussion back and forth about whether Prairie View should have played their starters, whether they should have rested their starters. And I was on record as saying I feel like if you're gonna play the game, you should play it. Injuries they can happen at any time, but this is a big fact. This it's a risk and a reward. So I always say you gotta weigh the risk and weigh the reward, and see how it turns out. Well, in this case, the risk is huge, and it can definitely impact this game. So we'll see if this offense can find some rhythm. They haven't been that sharp these last few weeks. The first half of Alcorn game, they did not look sharp. They played pretty well the second half of the Alcorn game. Alabama State, same thing. First half not so good. Second half, made a good run to win the game. Valley, they did not look sharp at all most of the game, and they, fell behind. So they definitely cannot afford to fall behind. You can't fall behind to this Jackson State team because they will bury you if you fall behind. You have to keep pressure on them. You have to score when you have opportunities, and you have to make plays. You can't waste possessions. And if guys are injured, somebody's gonna have to step up. Defensively, Drake Cheatham leads the team with 82 tackles. Trayshawn Smith, 79. Darius Campbell, 54. Bryce Turner, 54. Saheed Reese, 51. Trevion Green, 49. Troy James, 40. Jemias Presley, 36. Jesse Evans, 35. Tariq Mulmore, 35. Warren Shankel, 35. Shelvin Hudson, 34. Jason Dumas, 33. Tackles for loss. Dumas leads the team with 13 tackles for loss, 8 for Campbell, 8 for James, 7.5 for Powell, 6.5 for Evans, 6 for Cheatham, 6 for Reese, Hudson, 6 as well, 5.5 for Trayshawn Smith and Green, 5.5, Turner, 5. This defense has 89 tackles for loss on the season, so they definitely have done a really good job of getting teams behind the chains and being able to enforce their will on teams. And when you look at their statistical numbers, obviously that shows uh, they can they can make some plays in the backfield defensively. 24 sacks on the season, led by Jason Dumas with 7.5. Like I said, this guy is a beast on the defensive line, so you definitely need to know where he's at all times. Troy James, 4.5 tackles for loss. Powell, 3. Evans, 2.5. Green, 2. Shankel, 1. Excuse me, Shankel, 2. Hudson, 1. Obi, 1. And Carter with a half a sack. Interceptions, Drake Cheatham, 5 interceptions. So, again, a guy you need to know where he's at all times. If you make a bad throw, he will make you pay. So that's, for a team that airs the ball out as much as Jackson State does, that's, a guy that definitely needs to be accounted for. But Jackson State has so many weapons in the pass game that it's gonna, they can stretch you out and make you make mistakes. And if they struggle, then they can find a way to make that play late to keep themselves in the game. Special teams, Prairie View is Caleb Darbone is their punter. He has a 41.5-yard average. He has a longer 59 on the season. Field goals, Luis Reyes is 12 of 14 on the season with a long of 34. So they don't kick a lot of long field goals. They've kicked 9 field goals in the 20 to 29-yard range. 30 to 39 yards, they kick 4, and they're 4 for 4 in that range. 40 plus, they've only attempted 1 field goal outside of 40 yards. So they're not gonna really kick long field goals. If they're gonna probably go for it in those in between situations, and if they get closer and they can't score, then they will kick. But to me, field goals don't mean a lot in a game like this. You need touchdowns because Jackson State's offense is gonna force you to try to score touchdowns. Um, so it's important to capitalize on all your possessions. Special teams, Antonio Mullins was the leading punt returner with 6.1 yards per return. So if he's out, then that's a big guy, a big factor in the return game. I mean, he didn't have anything long. He had a longer 19, which is the longest on the team. But to have a guy that you count on to return punts, at least catch them. If you don't have a guy that you trust or a guy that can do that, then that can put you in some problems, and you don't need to give Jackson State any kind of short field. Reggie King is the leading kickoff returner. He has an average of 12.86 yards. Jalen Howard, 18.5 on 4 returns. Their longest kickoff return on the season is 26 yards. Again, they have not broken any kind of returns. So that's a weapon that's not there for them. But you never know what can happen in a game like this. But when you don't have that threat to scare teams, it changes the way that they approach you. So that non-threat is definitely going to help Jackson State be able to, you know, not worry about when they punt the ball. So this is a game that honestly shapes up well for Jackson State, and they come in this game 10-1 right now, 8-0 in conference. They opened up their season with a 7-6 victory over Florida A&M. They beat Tennessee State 38-16. They lost to ULM 12-7. They beat Delta State 24-17. They beat Alabama A&M 61-15. Alabama State 28-7. Bethune-Cookman 42-12. Valley 28-19 victory. They defeated Texas Southern 41-21. They beat Southern 21-17. They beat Alcorn 24-10, which brings them into this game. So we know throughout the season, we know what Jackson State is, and we know what they're made of. Their offense is second in the league in scoring at 29.2 points per game. Defensively, they're first at 13.8 points per game. Offensively, total offense, they are seventh in the league, and that's mainly due to their lack of run game. They're averaging 360 yards on the season per game, 41 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per play. They lead the league in total defense, 258 on the season, 16 touchdowns allowed, 3.9 yards per play. Rushing offense, Jackson is last at 90.3 yards per game. They average 3.1 yards per rush, and they have 13 touchdowns on the season. Defensively, they're second in the league in rushing at 99.5 yards per game, allowed 2.8 yards per carry and 7 touchdowns. Passing offense, right now they're second in the league in passing offense at 270 yards per game, 28 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. They lead the league in passing defense, 158 yards per game, allowed 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. The return game, they lead the league in kickoff returns with 25.4 yard average on returns and 1 touchdown. Punt returns, they're second, 14.2 yards per return and 1 touchdown. So they definitely have some weapons in the return game. That's going to swing field position in their favor. That can hurt. You know, that's something Prairie View got to be very aware of. Field goals, Jackson State is last in the league. They're 3 of 11 on field goals. So if there's anything that you can say is a weakness, is the kicking game. They're 3 of 11 on the season for 27%. Extra points, they're 4th, 42 or 44 for 95%. Punting, they're 9th in the league. They average 35.2 yards per punt. And net punt average, once you factor in returns, they average 32 yards per return. They're only allowing, they're on 32 yards net punt average. They're only allowing 1.7 yards per punt return. So it's hard to get anything going against them in any way, shape, or form. Sacks allowed, they're 11th in the league right now. They've allowed 30 sacks. So if you want to play with Jackson State, you have to get pressure on Shedeur. If you let him get loose, he can break some runs, and he's gonna pick up what he can pick up and get down. But if you can get to him in the backfield, then their offensive line has not been solid all year. Defensively, they have 48 sacks on the season. That leads the league, and they have 9 interceptions, which is 6th in the league, tied with Prairie View. So third down conversions, Jackson State is second in the league at 41% conversions for offense. Defensively, they lead the league at 27%. So it's tough to manufacture drives against the team. If you're gonna hit them, explosive plays really can catch them napping, but it's hard to really drive the ball down the field methodically against them, especially consistently. So you have to take advantage of any opportunities that you get. Fourth down conversions, Jackson State are 2 of 10 on offense with 20% defensively. They've allowed 9 conversions out of 24 attempts for 37.5%. And just looking at some of the individual statistics for Jackson State, this team is obviously the run game has not been so sharp. There's been their problem for the most part. Running the ball has really done them in. but they have some capable guys. Peyton Pickett, a capable ball carrier. Um, J.D. Martin's also a guy that can carry the ball for you, but the numbers aren't really there for their run game. Pickett, 80 carries, 328 yards, and 4 touchdowns, 4.1 yards per carry. Martin, 52 carries, 224 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He has 4.3 yards per carry. Shador Sanders he's at a net of 8 yards, but that's a lot of sack yardage. He does have a long run of 30 yards, so he can get out of the pocket. He can scramble, and he can pick up yardage and be effective in that way. He's not gonna go out there and just run around and just run around aimlessly. So he's looking to pick up first downs. He's looking to pick up yardage, and then he's looking to get down. He's 2248 of 361 passing for two 2,971 yards. He's 68% completion, 28 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The receivers, they all can hurt you. Keith Corbin leads the team with 63 catches for 887 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's averaging 14 yards per catch. Malachi Wideman, in 9 games, has 30 catches for 482 yards and 11 touchdowns, 16 yards per catch. He's a guy that can really make something happen. He's a big physical guy. He can make things happen. Trevante Rucker, 22 catches, 443 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 20 yards per catch. Josh Lanier, 36 catches, 315 yards, 8.7 yards per catch, 4 touchdowns. Warren Newman, 43 catches, 305 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then you have Shane Hook, 16 catches, 199 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So any one of these guys is more than capable of taking over a game um, and making things happen. So you need to account for all of these guys. They're gonna make you pay. They're gonna stretch you out and spread you out and hit you underneath, and then hit you deep with a guy like Wideman. So you have to be ready on defense at all times because you can get them in third and long because of their run game, but they are pretty capable of picking up third downs. So they're gonna keep drives going. You have to really, really work to stop them. Aubrey Miller leads the defense with 91 tackles. Keontae Hampton, 68. James Houston, 59. Antoine Owens, 55. John Huggins, 41. C.J. Holmes, 37. Cameron Stillman Craig, 35. Niles Gaddy, 33. Shiloh Sanders, 32. Tackles for loss. James Houston, 20 and a half tackles for loss. Owens, 16 and a half. Hampton, 12. Miller, 10 and a half. Davis, 9. Gaddy, 5. Reagan, 5. Stillman Craig, 3.5. Cornish Miller, 3.5. Huggins, 3. This team has 98 tackles for loss as a defense. So they are just, obviously we know that their defensive line is a line record. They're gonna move the line of scrimmage and force you to try to make something happen, man. It's really hard to move the ball on them. You can get them with misdirection if that's your game, but if there's not, then you have to try to find ways to get down the field. If you have time, you can hit the secondary downfield, but having time is the issue. Um, Sacks, James Houston, 14 and a half sacks. Owen, 6. Miller, 5. Aubrey Miller, 5.5. Gaddy, 4. Reagan, 4. Hampton, 3. Davis, 3. Stillman Craig, 2.5. Cornish Miller, 1.5. Katron Evans, 1.5. Dunn, 1. And Brown, 1. Abdul McClain, a half a sack. Interceptions. Shiloh Sanders leads the defense with 3 interceptions. Al Young, 2. Gaddy, Craig, Holmes, and Haney each have 1 apiece. Special teams, they've used 3 guys at punter. Lane McGregor has the most punts right now, so he has a 35-yard average. He has a longer 47. Field goals. Bailey Rayborn is 1 of 5 on the season. Glenn Messiah is 2 of 6. Like I said, they're 3 of 11 on the season as a team. Their longest field goal was 41 yards. So they do have two 40-plus yard field goals. Two of their three field goals made came from 40-plus yards. Um, so that's I mean, that's something to think about. And the other field goal came within 29 yards. So they they have tried six 40-plus yard field goals. So they will try to kick them from there if they get stalled out. But their offense typically can drive the field pretty well. Returns, Warren Newman is the leading punt returner. He has 17.5 yard average with one touchdown, longer 81 yards. Isaiah Bolden also has a 25-yard return. Bolden is the leading kickoff returner. He has a 33.3 yard average and one touchdown, 94 yards is his long. Rucker has a 64-yard return. CJ Holmes has a 37-yard return. So they have about five guys who have at least one return of 20-plus yards. So they have athletes and they have weapons, and they can take advantage of this and really give Prairie View the blues. Prairie View's gonna have to come in here and they're gonna have to try to manufacture points. If their offense is banged up, then they're gonna be in a really tough way. Um, I I I mean I like Jackson State in this game. I mean nothing has changed over the course of the season to make me pick otherwise. Um, I really hate that Prairie View's coming into this game banged up because I don't really want to hear I don't really want to hear that Prairie View is not they're banged up, they're not playing well. Uh, a championship game, everybody should be at full strength, but it is what it is at this point. So I'm going Jackson State in this game by a score of 30. Oh my God, why can't I read my own score? 31-18. Um, I think this is going to be a typical Jackson State game. I think this is going to be a game where JSU kind of they find themselves in a close game. I think Prairie View's going to play hard early. Um, I think the second half, Jackson State's going to pull away. I think that's just been their formula all year, and I don't really see that changing. So I think they're going to win this game and go to the Celebration Bowl to take on South Carolina State. So that's going to do it for our SWAC championship preview. And now we're going to look at our all SWAC honors. We're going to start off with the offensive player of the year, Akil Glass. He ended his career in the top five in passing in the SWAC. This year he had 3,568 yards passing, 36 touchdowns. He averaged 356.8 yards per game, 160.8 efficiency rating in 10 games. He had 5 games of at least 400 yards passing. Um, he reset the program's NCAA Division I era record with 462 yards in one game. He was named as one of the 25 finalists for the Walter Payton Award, and he was selected to the inaugural HBCU Legacy Bowl as the first selection. So really, a stellar career for him, a great season. Obviously, that midpoint, that 3-game losing streak did not go the way that they wanted. He had some bad games in that stretch, but he managed to have a good start and a good end and win the Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year is Florida A&M's Isaiah Land. He is one of the 25 players selected for the Buck Buchanan Award on the finalist list. He finished the season and led the nation with 25 and a half tackles for loss and 19 sacks. He also had 3 forced fumbles, 2 pass breakups, and 1 fumble recovery. He was a Week 4 Box to Row Player of the Week after a 3-sack performance. He also was named SWAC Defensive Player of the Week after setting a FAMU record with 5 sacks against South Carolina State. He recorded a sack or a tackle for loss in 10 of the 11 regular season games that they played in, and 2 sacks or more in 5 games. And he also the same thing for tackles for loss, 2 or more tackles for loss in 6 games. So really solid season for him. I think that he has a really good chance at the Buchanan Award. We'll see. But that's our Defensive Player of the Year. Newcomer of the Year is James Houston from Jackson State. He was one of the most dominant defensive linemen in the league, along with Isaiah Land. I wish you could put both of them on one D line, man. Your offense would not stand a chance. Quarterbacks would be really, really on the run, especially with two solid defensive tackles. They would really just murder you. Um, he finished the league. He finished with 59 tackles, 44 solo, 20 and a half tackles for loss, and 14 and a half sacks, 7 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1 touchdown, along with eight quarterback hurries. And obviously, he was one of the feature pieces on a top ranked defense that allowed just 13.8 points per game and 258 yards per game total offense. Freshman of the year, Shedeur Sanders, he had a really, really great freshman season, man. You know, a lot of people, including myself, didn't know what he could do. Really was like, casting a lot of doubt on him. But from game one, he stepped up and he did. They gave him a lot to, manage and work with, and he got better as the season went on. Never really had that freshman mistake, that people expect. But the future is obviously still bright for him. But he had a really good season. He's a finalist for the Jerry Rice Award, which is the Freshman of the Year award. At the conclusion of the regular season, he led the SWAC with a 68.7% percent completion rate. He passed for 2,971 yards and 28 touchdowns with only 5 interceptions. He averaged 270 yards per game passing, and he led the Jackson State offense, where the team as a whole, to an 8-0 conference record and a championship game berth. And that leads to the coach of the year. Coach Deion Sanders came in, set the SWAC on fire, man. Everything he said, he did. You know, they they did work in the fall, man. They used the spring to evaluate and get their pieces, and then in the fall they came in and they did their job, and now they're on their way to the SWAC championship game, 10-1. They're ranked in the top 15 in the FCS coaches poll, and in the top 25 of the Stats FCS poll. They won the division for the first time since 2013. He's a finalist for the Eddie Robinson Award, which is Coach of the Year. So congratulations to all those gentlemen. Great season, and obviously for the guys returning, a lot more we would love to see in the future. Quick look at the first team offense: Akil Glass, quarterback; Bishop Barnett, running back, along with Gary Quarles. Offensive lineman: Keenan Forbes from Florida A&M, Dallas Black from Southern, Mark Evans from Pine Bluff, Jonathan Bishop from Southern, Drake Centers from Texas Southern. Receivers: the A&M duo, Hilaire and Ibrahim. Kamari Everett is the tight end. So that's a very, very good first team offense. A lot of people, excuse me, if you really had any kind of, question about any position, it probably, you can make a case for a receiver. Corbin or Wideman probably from Jackson State. Some people can make an argument for Shedeur Sanders as first team quarterback over Glass, but you know, the guy won Player of the Year, so he probably he earned the first team as well. So, but not a lot of egregious names on this list, so that's always a good thing. Defensively, the defensive line: James Houston, Jackson State; Jason Dumas, Prairie View; Sundiata Anderson from Grambling; Antoine Owens from Jackson State; Isaiah Land at linebacker with Ontario Johnson and Aubrey Miller. Defensive backs: Marquise Bell from Florida A&M, Drake Cheatham, Florida A&M, B.J. Bowler, Florida A&M, and Omari Hill Robinson from Bethune-Cookman. First team special teams: Jose Romo Martinez at kicker from Florida A&M, Josh Sanchez, punter from Pine Bluff, and Isaiah Bolden, return specialist from Jackson State. Again, no real issues with anybody on this list. And honestly, to me, this is probably one of the better All SWAC lists. I don't really see anybody on this list who probably maybe should not be there. Usually it's a question or two, but honestly, not a bad selection this year. Second team offense: Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, Caleb Johnson at running back from Valley, Nico Duffy from Alcorn at running back. If I had to say, I can see, especially Caleb Johnson, I could see him as a first team running back. Obviously the two guys ahead of him are very, very good, but I think that he's right up there with them. He plays with Valley, so don't really get that attention. But that I could see that. I mean, I'm not upset that he didn't make first team, but I could see him making first team. The offensive lineman, Tony Gray from Jackson State, Jatyree Carter from Southern, Danny Garza from Prairie View, J. Jackson Williams from Florida A&M, Robert Austin from Alabama State, wide receivers Keith Corbin, Jackson State, and D. Anderson, Alabama A&M, Jaron Johnson, tight end from Texas Southern, defensively, second team, Ronnie Thomas from Valley, Savion Williams, Florida A&M, Michael Batterjo, Texas Southern, uh, Deontay Williams, Florida A&M, linebackers Monroe Beard, Pine Bluff, Keontae Hampton, Jackson State, Tariq Cooper, Texas Southern, defensive backs Ershad Davis, Alabama State, Keontae Daniels, Valley, Darius Campbell, Prairie View, Shiloh Sanders, Jackson State, second team, special teams, place kicker Garrett Urban from Grambling. Also, Urban was the punter as well. And return specialist Darnell Dees from Bethune-Cookman. So honestly, this is a pretty solid list. Not a lot of names I would take off. I think everybody was very deserving of this, and a very good job to me by the people that put this team together this year. So um, that's gonna do it for today's show. We're gonna go ahead and get on up out of here tomorrow. Swag Smoke live as usual, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. WAC Championship recap on Sunday, and like I said, next week we're gonna start our SWAC basketball preview. And anytime between now and then, if something happens at Southern on the coaching front, we will be here to talk about it. So make sure to keep that notification on, man, because we might be dropping something at any time. So with that being said, I'm your tour guide, man. I'm gonna pull over the tour bus and y'all can hop on off. And I'll holler at y'all tomorrow for Swag Smoke. We're out.